Okay, so let's just dive right into this explainer. Picture this. It's 2023. Federal agents are out on a routine operation at an undisclosed location in the U.S. Suddenly, they look up and see this massive, glowing orange orb just hovering in the sky. Wild, right? But it doesn't stop there. Over the next 2 days, 6 highly trained federal agents give sworn statements about seeing the exact same thing. And the absolute craziest part? They literally watch this giant orange orb start launching smaller, red orbs into the sky. It was like a sci-fi mothership deploying tiny aircraft. They zipped up, zipped down, completely defying physics. Now, this wasn't some random internet rumor. These were sworn official accounts from government officials. Fast forward to May 8th, 2026. The U.S. Department of War officially publishes 162 previously classified files, dragging incredible, unexplainable cases just like that orange orb straight out of the shadows. We are talking about FBI documents, Pentagon reports, unseen photos and videos being dropped right into the public's lap. So that brings us to Section 1, the new UFO files. Let's just define exactly what we're dealing with here, because when you get a massive intelligence dump like this, the details absolutely matter. You know, when most of us hear UFO, our brains instantly jump to aliens in sci-fi movies, but literally, it strictly means unidentified flying object. Right now, there are over 400 documented aerial phenomena sitting in government files, and the government openly admits they just do not know what they are. They're simply phenomena that completely defy immediate explanation. Now, take a look at where these recent sightings are actually happening. We've got verified reports from Iraq in 2023, Syria and Japan in 2024, and Greece back in 2023. I really want you to keep this geographic pattern in the back of your mind. It might seem a bit random right now, but later on, this specific pattern is going to completely reveal the truth behind this entire mystery. Moving right along to Section 2, Earth and Space Encounters. What is genuinely mind-bending here is the physics observed in these encounters. We're not just talking about some blurry lights in the distance. Just look at how these things break the laws of physics. Take that 2023 Greece encounter on the top row, for example. The US military actually captured a 2-minute infrared video of an object over the ocean taking impossible 90-degree turns at 80 miles per hour. Basic inertia tells us no known aircraft can pull that off. Then, look down the list. Extreme speeds in Iraq, a bizarre football-shaped object with projections in Japan, and, get this, a massive glowing metallic ellipsoid spotted right here in the US in 2013. These things just appear, do the impossible, and vanish. But hey, the mystery definitely isn't limited to our atmosphere down here on Earth. Back in 1965, during the Gemini 7 mission, American astronaut Frank Borman radioed Houston with this exact phrase, "Bogey at 10 o'clock high." Now, in military speak, a bogey is an unidentified aircraft or a missile. It's a term strictly used for terrestrial warfare. So, using it out in the dead vacuum of space to describe a distinct floating object that wasn't space debris, that is incredibly striking. And the space anomalies absolutely do not stop there. The Apollo mission files reveal some deep, deep mysteries. During Apollo 17 in 1972, photographs literally captured unexplainable physical 3-dot formations hovering in a triangle right over the lunar surface. And even earlier, on Apollo 11, Buzz Aldrin himself documented strange flashing lights in the cabin and unexplainable laser-like lights on the moon. We're talking about highly trained astronauts here, not exactly the kind of guys who make things up for attention. But to truly understand these modern encounters, we need to rewind a bit to Section 3, the flying saucer era, and trace this whole cultural hysteria right back to its roots. Check out this timeline. The modern obsession with aliens didn't just slowly build up over centuries. It literally exploded over a few weeks in the summer of 1947. It all kicked off in June when a private pilot named Kenneth Arnold saw 9 shining objects flying at impossible speeds over Washington state. Weeks later, bam, the infamous Roswell debris is discovered. The hysteria got so out of hand that the government eventually launched Project Blue Book in 1952 just to deal with the mountain of sighting. But honestly, what's really fascinating is how the famous term itself was a total accident. When Kenneth Arnold was interviewed about those 9 objects in 1947, he never actually said they were shaped like saucers. He was describing how they moved. He said they flew the way a saucer would if you skipped it across water. Well, the newspapers completely botched the quote, mistook a description of movement for the actual shape, and printed massive headlines about flying saucers. That one little media slip-up changed our global vocabulary overnight.
Then, just 2 weeks later, the Roswell incident poured absolute gasoline on the fire. Look at this comparison. On July 8, 1947, the U.S. Army officially puts out a press release claiming they found a flying disc. Naturally, the world goes wild. But then, literally the very next day, they pull this massive U-turn and claim, oh wait, actually, it was just a weather balloon. Because, whenever the military panics, a weather balloon always takes the blame, right? That totally contradictory backtrack ignited a global panic, leading to over 300 UFO sightings in just 6 months.
Things got so loud that the government actually ran Project Blue Book for 17 straight years just to investigate. They looked into 12,000 cases. Now, notice the huge slice of this pie? Over 11,000 of them were easily debunked. Just balloons, airplanes, or even people staring at bright planets. But look closely at that tiny remaining sliver. 701 cases remained completely unidentified. Zero explanation. And those 701 files, they are exactly what fueled decades of conspiracy theories.
Which naturally brings us to Section 4, the military connection. So what is actually going on here? Are we dealing with visitors from another galaxy, or is it something a little closer to home?
Well, let's look at what the government finally admitted decades later. By the 1990s, they declassified Project Mogul, which proved Roswell wasn't a standard weather balloon, and it definitely wasn't a flying saucer. It was a highly classified Cold War spy balloon meant to monitor Soviet nuclear tests. And in 1997, they admitted the so-called alien bodies people saw were actually just test dummies from military drops. The wild truth here? The US government actually found it incredibly useful to let the public believe in aliens. It was literally the perfect smokescreen to hide their top-secret Cold War spy tech. Now, remember those geographical breadcrumbs I dropped earlier in this explainer about Iraq, Syria, and Greece? Here is the crucial aha moment. UFOs, both historically and right now, appear almost exactly where the US military deploys its most advanced monitoring systems. During the Cold War, they clustered right along US and Soviet borders. Today, they cluster around heavily monitored, high-tension regions like the Middle East and the Indo-Pacific. It's a massive, undeniably clear pattern. When you put it all together, the terrestrial explanations just make way more sense. These highly advanced objects are most likely classified American tech being tested out of sight, or they're foreign spy drones, kind of like that Chinese spy balloon shot down in 2023, and that glowing mothership launching smaller orbs from the intro. Defense analysts actually note that foreign powers are actively developing drone motherships capable of doing exactly that. As for space, even Buzz Aldrin later acknowledged that those strange flashes were likely just sunlight reflecting off smooth surfaces or atomic particles reacting right inside the cabin. This brings us to a really fundamental principle. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Look, as thrilling as it is to believe in a grand sci-fi cosmic mystery, we have to be real here. Blurry infrared videos and a bunch of uncontextualized files simply do not provide the undeniable, extraordinary evidence you'd need to actually prove extraterrestrial life. In fact, just to clear the air, the Defense Department set up the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. They dug through decades of files and dropped a massive report in 2024. Their ultimate conclusion? Absolutely zero evidence of extraterrestrial technology. No secret reverse engineering programs, nothing like that. They found that the vast majority of these objects are definitively just drones, weather balloons, spy planes, and rockets. So that begs the question, why dump these 162 unanalyzed files on the public in 2026? The source material highlights a pretty prominent theory. It suggests that certain administrations purposefully drop these confusing files without any context to deliberately stir up conspiracies. Think about it. By dumping this stuff, it fuels pseudoscience, it totally dominates the news cycle, and it acts as an incredibly effective distraction from genuine political scandals and elite crimes, like the Epstein files, for example. Mystery always thrives when transparency is missing, right? Ultimately, looking at all the evidence we've covered in this explainer, you really have to ask yourself a critical question. Does our absolute obsession with the stars and alien mysteries actually blind us to the very real terrestrial secrets hiding right in plain sight? Is looking to the skies just a trick to keep us from seeing the high-stakes spy games and political maneuvers happening right here on Earth? It's definitely a fascinating thought to leave you with. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. And remember, keep your eyes open, not just to the skies, but to what's happening right in front of you.